And after that, in the coming months,
My
I'm
mistake, you're with
going to be
UDF now.
much more involved with the UDF.
But
we
does that
cannot wish it away.
explain your party hopping? Because you've been in several parties.
Which party
Ford
hopping
Kenya, new Ford Kenya. Have you not been in, correct me if I'm wrong, you've been in ODM if I'm not mistaken?
No, I've never.
Yes.
I cannot approach the record of 8 parties by Raila Odinga.
Which party now?
So, yes, exactly.
All right, I am finishing off non-political work in a program we're running for United Nations Development Program. And after that, in the coming months, I'm going to
with
be
UDF now.
much more involved with the UDF.
UDF.
Yes.
You've been brokering quite a bit for Musalia Mudavadi, and the question one of our viewers has actually asked is, you've been an MP, but is it Kimilili?
Yes,
is extremely underdeveloped.
Well, what does that got to do with the UDF?
No, it has to do with you as a former MP.
Kimilili is not the most undeveloped part of this country. And if you look at the statistics of Kimilili, Kimilili is doing very well on a lot of very major statistics.
The question is about your record as MP of Kimilili. What did you do? Because the viewer has sent in a text saying you did nothing.
Well, it must come from another community from the one I come from.
Okay, so what were your achievements when you were MP?
I have a number of major achievements that I can stand proud about. The revival of education institutions in Kimilili constituency during my period. By the time I left, we accounted for more than 50% of all direct university entries from Western Province out of Kimilili constituency. Number 2, the revival of the agricultural sector. We did very much, particularly in the introduction of horticultural infrastructure, the construction of a series of publicly owned milk coolers to revive a dairy industry that has been gone for a long time, the revival of coffee farming, which is now growing more rapidly than most areas outside Trans Nzoia in the whole of the country. These are some of the achievements, but most importantly, the investment in education infrastructure. Because I believed little projects that I did this for this person that are not as important as I created opportunities for persons to grow their talent and contribute to a great Kenya.
Somebody says, I asked whether you are the one suggesting the construction of Tongareni Dam, and therefore, I don't know what's wrong with the Tongareni Dam.
Oh, no, I have talked at the highest level to announce that there will be no Tongareni Dam. That was contrived by people in government.
Not yourself.
I have laid saying it will never happen, both publicly and in informal meetings with government people. We can have a series of small dams to mitigate floods in Budalangi, but you cannot displace 40,000 people permanently so as to save 10,000 people from seasonal displacement. And it's very irrational. Yeah.
Okay, you were telling us earlier about the work you've been doing with this UNDP program, the Kenya Institute of Governance. Yeah. And further to that, you've also, been commenting on politics. So you've also commented on the issues at the coast of the secessionist movement, the MRC. What is your stand now? What do you think? Should they be unbanned? Should the government be engaging them? Should the government unban them and then engage them? What do you think?
Okay, there are a number of different things. I've seen the charade that is popular politics in this country. We are in a very difficult situation because you want to have a consistency in your practice, and this is something I've always argued. If you want to use a method of doing things, be ready to use the same method in all cases. You cannot have special consideration for one region, which you cannot apply in another region. The people of Coast Province have a lot of legitimate concerns about injustices visited upon them. Areas like Kwale had the misfortune that during the colonial period, the Islamic faith did not build any education infrastructure in Kwale. And the colonial education, which was driven by missionaries, did not touch Kwale. So it starts disadvantaged at independence. But since independence, political pressure for investment in education infrastructure has led education growth elsewhere and left it in the backwaters. It remains like 30 years behind the rest of the country. You compound this with injustices about land alienation, about the reality that if you come from a country and you secure through some contacts to purchase some parcel of land, within months you have your title deed. And coastals have been struggling for 50 years and they don't get title deeds for their land. You deal with the alienation they see up-country persons taking all the better jobs and they being entertainers for the up-country. They are legitimate concerns. But that is very different from justifying pretensions of secession. I say government has to find the right medium and talk with people who say it's enough. We cannot continue being like second-class citizens in our country.
So government should negotiate. Should they be unbanned?
It's not about negotiating with MRC. I'm saying government must talk with people who are ready to engage on the issues of the day and how can we resolve those issues. But for an organization to say, you can only talk to us if we accept that we're secessionist. That usually happens when there's a stalemate. You are at war. You are not beating an organization. Say, okay, you talk to us, then we can stop fighting you.
Okay.
But you can, if you say we are threatening use of force of arms to secede from Kenya, and we don't give a damn what you want to talk, unfortunately, you are talking the language of the Subordinate Land Defense Forces of 2007. It is not healthy. And I have been I told people in Mount Elgon, I tell my colleagues in Kwale and in Coast Province, you have legitimate concerns. Engage about how to deal with this legitimately. But to say we want to secede, that's not legitimate. That is treasonable by our laws. And we cannot treat one case different from others. Injustices have to be addressed through a just method.
I think I agree with Dr. Okay. First of all, Chapter 2 of our Constitution, Section 5, tells us the boundaries of Kenya. If somebody comes up today and tells you that Pwani is Kenya, you're simply telling us our boundary is around Voi or somewhere else. I think I agree with Dr. that you cannot say that we negotiate with you when you are saying that you don't belong to Kenya. After all, why should we negotiate with you? The other thing that is worrying me is the way, and it comes back to the same thing that we talked about here. Presidential candidates, two of them, Raila Odinga and Musalia Mudavadi, they go to court same day. One of them says, we can talk to you. The other one says, we are going to take a motion to parliament. The Minister for Internal Security, who is also a presidential candidate, also goes to an extent also pampering these guys. And is the one in charge of our security. I like the MRC when they told him, you cannot ban us, and then you'd say you are going to negotiate with us. You see, these are people who want to be my president. Forget about you and Mutegi and Daktari, my president. And I'm not liking the way they are treating the MRC. What happens tomorrow if the people of Turkana also say, we want to secede? So I think, like Daktari has said, we need to be very firm. First of all, MRC is doing and acting against our constitution. What stops me again today, or any other person for that matter, to again act the same against the same constitution? And what will be the government's action?
Mutegi?
I agree with all what they're saying. My problem is the politicians. They are, like Dr. said here, they are not consistent. Raila goes to parliament and says, we cannot talk to them. Saitoti says in parliament, we cannot talk to them. Later on, they change their minds. They must be consistent.
But surely this is playing into the hands of the MRC.
Because they want to vote. Because they want populism.
But if you were the MRC, why would you drop your demand for secession or for legitimization if you're being courted by these politicians?
You know, that's a fundamental issue. I think the MRC thing is a serious challenge to Kenya's integrity. Yeah, no, you cannot wish it away. Yeah. And to the health and security of persons in Coast Province. I think it this way. President Kibaki should convene a meeting of all political leaders of the different political parties. Say, we have a problem on our hands. This is a matter so sensitive and serious for us, we should not use it for gains, political brinkmanship. We should not get into a situation like Raila got himself into, that if you are addressing hoteliers, you say one thing, and if you come to speak to the Holopolo in Likoni, you speak a totally opposite thing.
Exactly.
I think it is a matter that political contest should be shifted to other issues. And we treat MRC as a collective national challenge and agree what's the best way to address the justified social demands of the Coast people without appearing to be justifying secessionist sentiment. I think that way you depoliticize it, and we collectively own the decision of the method we're going to use to regain the confidence of Coast people.
A very quick question on that point. If we talk with the MRC on grounds of historical neglect, should the government also engage groups from the former Northern Frontier districts, the Pokot and the Ngems?
Why not?
No, but to me, the government should engage those groups immediately because they are not threatening secession.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think even being a challenge, and I agree with the Dr. Actually, that's the most appropriate approach, where the government can come in, President Kibaki, and call these other guys and tell them, look, this is a challenge we have.
And you ring fence the
issue.
issue.
We need to do 1, 2, 3. But we also need to challenge these presidential candidates. Assuming you are the president today, how would you handle the situation? If we are finding a guy who is talking to hoteliers and uses a different language, he's going to do the same. These guys are not very stupid. In fact, that's why they said, we don't want even to hear. Walisema, hiyo ni shauri yao, hiyo ni hiari yao. Waende wapeleke hiyo moshoni zao, hiyo ni hiari yao. Wanasema hivyo because they have realized that they have been lied to for 50 years. Now we need somebody who come up like Daktari and say, fine, we understand their problems. But this is not the way to go. The way to go is this.
But you know, look, I sat in a caucus and I'm involved in a caucus with the leadership of UDF party. Now we are saying we have a number of social challenges in this country. Some are security challenges. As a party, we have to develop sustainable positions that can be sold across the board.
And I'm sure the other parties,
MRC,
yes, I'm sure the other parties will say the same.
I hope they do. But you see, look, if we say that we are supporting setting up of a select committee in parliament, that is an exercise saying government as government has structural problems of talking to a secessionist group.
Okay.
But as a select committee can talk to anybody.
We have to go on a break.
But we are going ahead. We at UDF are actually systematically addressing different things, and in the coming period
we will talk about that when we come back.
on those kind of issues.
When we come back.